Hey guys, welcome back to The Ice Project. If you're watching us on YouTube, please smack that subscribe button. We just have launched a new collection last week called Hindsights 2020. It's going great. Few things have sold out. We will be restocking the Seafoam hoodies pretty soon. We've got a new dropping next week as well. So really looking forward to this one. But for now, roll the intro.
Welcome to the Ice Project. Welcome to the Ice Project.
Better half of Fox Sports presenter Lara Pitt. What's up? Is that what you told me to say? Hey, and welcome to the show. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
No, man. Thanks for having me.
What's going on?
Well, I'm excited to chat to you.
Yeah.
And to start off, I just want to say well done to you guys. I love what you're doing. I've been following it, and yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, thanks, bro. I appreciate that. So give us a little bit of context. Actually, Dragons fan, eh? We still will touch on this. How do you think the Dragons will go this year?
Well, the only way is up. Well, actually, there's a little bit of down, but
there's plenty in that. Cam McInnes, he's out for 12 weeks. That hurt you a little bit.
That's a tough blow.
Got Isaac Luke there though. He's a good backup.
That looks like a genius signing now, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it?
No, look, I think we'll be all right. I think the Nines was a great little confidence booster. Different game, of course, but I'm a Dragons fan. We're always optimistic until about round 10.
You guys start fast, don't you? It's very fast starters. What do you think of the Nines?
I loved it. Thought my wife did a great job.
Yeah, I see she's showing a little bit. Yeah. When's baby due?
Mate, we're due sort of mid-late May, so very inconvenient. Right in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
I know. We've planned it to perfection prior to this, but anyway, what can you do?
Yeah, it is what it is.
She might get to more games now.
Plenty in that. Oh, actually, with the Nines, but obviously the Dragons made the finals.
Yeah, awesome. I thought it was fantastic.
Cody Ramsey was good to watch, wasn't he?
Mate, I know. I'm starting a campaign. He's got to play somewhere, surely.
Where would you put him?
Well, look, I think he's going to be an awesome fullback. But, by all reports, young Zach's going to get first crack. Chuck him on the wing. Get the Lord Gypsy Nightingale to mentor him and, teach him how to run fast and all of that.
Yeah, 100. Who's your favourite player on the Dragons?
Oh, mate, look, I've got to say Big Tice at the moment.
He's
so,
good.
Sending out love, stay with us, brother. Don't leave.
Yeah, he's a bit of rumours he might be taken off to Newey, or I support Newcastle too, so.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, obviously want him to stay there with Normie and that, so he's got a good back rower, but I love Newcastle as well.
Yeah, no, fair enough. He'd be good for you, but he'd be better for us. So.
Yeah. Thoughts on Normie?
Love Normie.
Yeah.
Love Normie. No, I'm a big fan. I haven't met him yet, so I'd love to meet him.
I'll introduce you to him, bro. He's a great guy, funny, just a knockabout. All right.
This partnership could work.
Collab. So give us a bit of context, bit of background. Where'd you grow up? How'd you get into running your own clothing company?
Well, first of all, I suppose that's why I'm a Dragons fan. Grew up down south, Cars Park, Sylvania, so I was bolted on Red V fan from the get-go. Moved over to the east side. Didn't sort of venture into the Roosters territory, so I've stuck solid.
Bandwagon. Would have been easy.
I know. I do have one brother that fell off the wagon. He's a Chooks fan. It's disgraceful, but anyway. That's another
story for another time.
Podcast.
Hey, it makes for a good Anzac Day though, doesn't it?
It does. It's very exciting. It's very exciting. There's a lot of tension. Prior to starting Academy Brand, I was in advertising. So I spent about 8 or 9 years in advertising. I was a copywriter, so I was sort of building everyone else's brands, and that's.
Explain what a copywriter is. A lot of people wouldn't understand what that is.
So basically, in advertising, things have changed now, but when I was there,
you still need good copywriting, though.
100%. But you really had a creative team. So there's a creative department. The briefs come into the creative department, whether it's a radio ad, TV ad, whatever. And the creative team was made up of a copywriter and an art director, right? So we would literally sit like across from each other, like we are now. You're the art director, I'm the writer, but we're coming up with ideas. And when we have an idea, you make it look great, I'll make it sound great. That's basically how it worked. So that was my thing, that was my passion, and still is building brands. So I always wanted to build my own brand, I knew that. But it wasn't always going to be in fashion. I just, I loved finding a gap in the market for my clients, right? So, it's nice to win awards for advertising, but my priority was always selling stuff, right? That's the first bit of advice I give everyone in business, right? Sell stuff. Yeah. It sounds so logical, but unfortunately people can lose sight of that, right, and get distracted. So
I use sort of the first part of my day as like, how can we move the money needle forward? All my tasks in the first part of the day is like, how the fuck can we make money, or because it's like all my analogies go back to footy. It's like, winning solves everything. It's like sales sells everything within business.
Do you have that written down somewhere? How the fuck can I make money?
It's more so, yeah, we need that up there.
That's the next T-shirt.
Oh, 100%. Need money ASAP.
No. But seriously, it's that's why you're in business, right? Not exclusively to make money, but the business only survives if you are.
Oh, it's oxygen,
So,
isn't it?
if you work back, you've got to have everything in place, right? So
You've sort of skimmed over this a little bit. I read an article, say you're one of 4 brothers, all quite successful in their own right.
Yeah,
Do you want to touch on that?
So
Coming from a competitive family, I'm
well, I
assuming?
touched on the guy that we don't really talk too much.
Is he the youngest brother?
No, he's number 2. He's number 2. Yeah, so 3 brothers.
Do you know
one
what it
of
is?
4
Middle child. He's trying to get attention.
Probably. No, probably. That's enough about him. One of 4 boys. We're all very close, very similar but very different in certain ways. But yeah, all my brothers are really successful. A couple of lawyers, a wealth manager. So there's a bit of competition there. So I kind of get described as the black sheep sometimes because I ventured off into the creative side of things. Not the regimented, high-end, big money kind of world. Although that's where we want to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, I'm very lucky. We're all very close. Go to the footy, hang out a lot, which is fantastic. But yeah, I think having a family of kind of high achievers, if you can call them that, has helped me from the start. Because when you want to do something, you always look around for inspiration. And I'm lucky. I
It was under your own roof, wasn't it?
It was. It was right there. And everyone's been really supportive, as I am of them. So I'm lucky. I'm lucky, mate, having that.
Yeah. So it's almost like the rising tide raises all ships, doesn't it?
100%. There's another T-shirt right there.
Shit. What about Academy Brain? Just got to start rocking out new tees.
Yeah.
I'm stealing all these quotes.
But it's funny because when I, just going back a little bit, when I sort of had the idea to start the brand, I was still working in advertising, right? But it was kind of a funny story. I won't bore you, but I'll
Tell
go
me.
into it.
I want to hear it.
So, a bit like us, right, where we don't have to wear a uniform, in inverted commas, right? So, I mean, every day we'd walk up to our advertising agency and, you think you're cool and you're wearing jeans and thongs and white tees and all of this sort of stuff, very cash. But I just sort of started to look around and we all looked the same. We were like these clones, these disciples. And I just sort of started thinking, well, why is that? And you got to remember, like, my brain was trained to sort of think about that sort of stuff, right? Market trends, where's the gaps, what's happening, why is that person saying that, why is that person doing that? That's what I did for all my clients. So I just started looking into it. And when I looked at the fashion market at the time, and I wasn't a fashion guy, I love fashion, but I wasn't a fashion guy.
You're not lining up to cop kicks or anything like that.
No.
Just want to look nice.
This was totally pre-social media and everything, right? So no Instagram, sounds funny, right? No Twitter. It was ridiculous. Anyway.
It sounds like, I know you're talking about that now. We've essentially built our brand off the back of Instagram and vlogging and stuff like that. Fuck, it sounds daunting back in those days.
Well, it's different, I know. But so it's just when things happen, right? There's a timeline for everything. And, in one way, it was great for you to be able to do that. But it's obviously really challenging because you've got more eyeballs, which can be good. But then if you don't get it right, you can slide pretty quickly. Anyway, the market at the time was really changing, and what I discovered was there was a whole heap of, this was the time when the big fast fashion players were coming into the market, your H&M, Topshop, Zara, these kind of players. But what they were all bringing to Australia was a very similar thing: cheap, fast, no real soul, no real brand, right? And it sort of alienated, in my opinion at the time, a lot of customers, right? So being an ad guy, I kind of created a customer, right? Whenever you start anything, whenever you've got an idea, figure out who you're going to target. That's where it starts.
And you targeted the forgotten man.
Hey, you've been reading.
I've been researching,
I
bro.
love it.
We do research around here.
So the forgotten man, that's where it all started. So the forgotten man was essentially, there was a lot of options for the guy that wanted to spend a lot of money. There was a lot of options for the guy that wanted to spend no money, the cheap fast fashion, which there's a place for it, don't get me wrong, but there was this huge gap in the middle, right? This whole really commercial, easy, market, and it was the forgotten man. He was being forgotten about. So I started developing that, and the academy was formed to find the forgotten man, and that's where it all kind of kicked off. And
it's cool. You obviously good at your job. I was reading it. I was like, shit, that makes sense. That's cool.
Well, it's logical, right?
Yeah,
You know, like
yeah.
a lot of people ask me, academy, how did you, you know, and I mean, that's another whole conversation, right? I mean, how you come up with a name and what's good for the brand. And
How did you come up with the name?
well, that's pretty much it, right? I always wanted something that was, the other thing that was happening at the time, there was a lot of, you know, underground kind of really niche-y brands and labels starting, and that's really, really cool, but they all had these really obscure names, really long, and I always thought, you know what, I mean, that's cool for now, but when things like Instagram are invented, when things like Twitter are invented, when you need a handle, when you've got to be, you know, attracting people's attention in like a millisecond and not a minute, shorter is always better, you know, and abbreviations are fantastic, which is what you've done really well.
Yeah.
You know, because it's kind of like a brand image, you know, and Academy for me was universally kind of known. It's an easy word. It evokes a certain feeling at the time, and we still do. We have a bit of a kind of an Americana preppy undertone through what we do.
I was thinking in my mind, like, how do I describe it? And like,
Yeah.
you pretty much just summed it up right then, isn't it?
So we try and tone that down a little bit, right? But it's there.
Still for the Aussie bloke.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
You know, well, it's kind of like, if you think about that, a preppy vibe, but made for Australia. So it's a bit more, it's down to earth, it's modest. You know, it's not in your face. We don't put slogans everywhere. That's not us, right? It's a real kind of lifestyle outfitter. We let you choose how you want to wear it. So, yeah, I mean, that was really the market at the time, and Academy had legs. I knew it had legs. For example, you know, I instantly thought, well, eventually we could have the sports academy, you know, the kids academy, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So it's always been important for me when you're looking at marketing ideas is to understand, well, it's good now, but will it be good tomorrow and next month and next year? So that was a big focus for me, to have a word, a name that would last, you know, it had longevity. And, you know, I'm pretty happy that we landed on Academy.
So you're thinking about these sort of stuff even before you started?
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, I was fortunate. That was what I was doing. That was my background. You know, I wouldn't expect people that weren't in marketing or in advertising to really understand that. They've got to do it, but I used what was around me. That was the thing. So even when we started to build the brand, I was still working full time, right, earning a quid, and I was doing really well, and I was liking it. So there was no need to kind of pull up stumps just yet. But at the same time, I was passionate about this idea because I knew it was right. So I drew on all my mates who owed me favours in the industry, so photographers, printers, you name it. And the first catalogue I produced looked like I'd been around for a decade.
Oh, bullshit, yeah.
And that is what started everything. So when I sort of hit the streets with my suitcases to try and sell the brand,
I've heard about this story, yeah.
Well, it's and because people ask me, oh, you know, I said, well, it's really important. First impressions last, right? You know, there's cliche one for the day. There'll be more.
Build a t-shirt brand off the back of this podcast.
I reckon we've nailed it, mate. Best sellers. But yeah, it's really, really true, right? If someone's got confidence in you when you're selling them something, mate, half the job's done. And I've seen sales pitches be successful when the product is rubbish. Like, the power of the pitch is so critical. But again, I knew that was my life. I was pitching to big executives creative ideas, right? You can imagine being in a boardroom, whether it's for Alfa Romeo, for example, right? And we called them suits back in the day, would sit there, and you could just tell they're looking at these creative blokes going, seriously, like, we've got to listen to you blokes tell us what ad we should make, right? So you have to really understand the crowd, and you've got to impress them, you know? You may be wearing a tee and some ripped jeans and standing up in front of them, but you got to know your staff, and you got to be passionate about it. And it was the confidence, and when they feel confident that you're confident, mate, you're winning. So, and that's what we did. So I made sure that I would come into you. It's the first store that I'd ever shown the collection to, and I knew that I wanted you to say to me, oh, so is this a brand from LA? Are you representing it? This looks great. How long, you know, like...
Did you ever tell any porkies at the start?
Oh, maybe a couple. Maybe a few. Yeah. But it was brilliant, because that's exactly the reaction we got. And once I got the order in the bag, oh, by the way, we're Aussie, you know, this is the first season.
Got ya.
But, you know, so that was really important. That's one thing that gave us a really good leg up.
So you're talking about sale pitches and you're rolling up to these stores. What were you saying?
Hello. I'm here to show you some good shit. No, look, it was really, it wasn't necessarily, there was some cold call interviews, right? I'm not a fan of that though. I'm not a fan of that because it happens to me now and I don't like it, right? I prefer people to engage with me, whether it's by phone or email, introduce yourself, what's the deal, because that's all a part of the pitch. So if I email you, Isaac, I've got something to show you, you know, I know you're busy, I just want to take a couple of minutes of your time, I'm just going to show you a little snippet here and, you know, in an email, I'll let you look at that in your own time. Yes, I'll follow you up every couple of days, but I'll let you look at it in your own time. I'll endear myself to you first and foremost, because when I first meet you, you got to already like me. So that's what I did, right? I very randomly, seldomly would just rock into a store and say, hey, have you got 1 second? I've got this suitcase of stuff, you know. Because you imagine, right, they're all owner-operators. They haven't got time to do that. So it was very planned. It was very planned, and that was why it was really helpful to have an amazing catalogue. Because once I emailed that, I knew I had their attention. Because you could not. You open it and you go, well, shit.
It's clean, yeah.
Yeah, this looks great. This is, I've got to check this out. Because in the early days, they're not just buying the product, they're buying you. And so again, that was, I knew this from my marketing days, right? So I really attribute a lot of the success we've had to what I was doing and everything I learned about marketing, building a brand, understanding customers. You know, that, I mean, you're doing it.
Yeah, we're doing it, but we've sort of learned on the fly as well. So, like,
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's kind of the best way to learn, isn't it? Because if I look back at it now and seen all the shit that we've gone through, I was like, fuck, if I knew that at the start, it would have not half put me off, but you go, fuck, there's a fuckload of work in there, and you're going to almost end up broke and all this sort of stuff. Is it really worth it? And I'm glad I've been through it now. But I was talking to Lukey before, and I said, to move into fashion, that's probably the best background you can come from, like a marketing and advertising sort of standpoint, because clothes are fucking clothes, aren't they? A t-shirt's a t-shirt.
Yeah, I think that's a good attitude to have, because you're right.
Yeah.
You know, like and you are too. We're playing in a field where, you know, like we can all make a good tee, we can all make a good pair of pants, chinos, whatever. But that's why the brand and the soul and the depth and what you stand for is just so important. That's what I love about what you're doing, right? Because there's a real DNA about it. From these podcasts you do to the product to the office I'm sitting in, to it oozes it, and that's going to set you up for success. Because there's plenty of labels and brands that just don't have that. You know, they get a little bit blasé and maybe a bit arrogant that the product is going to do all the talking. It doesn't happen.
Oh, the amount of times, like, you probably had it a lot more than me. You've been in the game a lot longer, but the amount of times, and you talked about it off air just before, amount of creative people that come to you and showing you their work, and you've gone, fuck, this is amazing, but just have nothing else behind it. They just think, they think clothes are going to do all the work for them. It's a big mistake, isn't it?
You know what it's like? I call it the Hollywood set syndrome, right? It's like, you remember, you know, Universal Studios or whatever, and you walk down the street and there's all these amazing buildings, but they're just cardboard propped up with wood, right? You put your head around this and there's nothing there.
No substance.
You know, and that's exactly the problem. So that's what we try and do with our brand, is make sure there's always something there. There's more depth. It's not just the shirt on the hanger. It's everything it represents. It's the vibe in the room. It's how the staff member talks to you. It's, you know, the bag it goes in, how it's wrapped, the sticker. It's the 1%ers that give you depth, right? And without that, you're nothing. You really are. And I mean, you spoke about now that there's Instagram and Twitter and Instagram story, you know, it's crazy, right? There's never been more ways to engage with a customer. So if you look at that, you're like, well, if I'm not engaging with a customer on so many different levels, I'm going to get found out. And I reckon if you scroll through Instagram, you can kind of separate the men from the boys, if you know what I mean. Like, you can see brands that are just going through the motions, you know, almost treating the customer with, oh, you know, I know I've shown you this before, but here it is again. This is... Got to keep, you know, I always say it's never about a revolution, but it is about an evolution, you know, and that's key to building a brand. I don't think you ever want to, you know, completely change. Consistency is king. It really, really is. And underpinning consistency is that DNA that I spoke about, right? Because once you embed that and you keep going back to that, you can change things up a little bit with your product, but it's still adhering to the DNA. You're not moving away from that.
On brand.
you're on brand. And if you keep, I've seen brands, look, there is exceptions to the rule. There's some brands that simply have to reinvent themselves for whatever reason. Maybe something's gone wrong, or they've gone out of business and they want to have another crack or whatever. But ultimately, if you're staying true and you're being consistent, you've got a consistent voice, that's what your customer loved from the start. They're going to stay with you as long as you're treating them and engaging with them on a level that's sort of evolving all the time. That's...
I talk about small brands all the time, and people always ask me to check out their pages, and there's comments on there, and people aren't even replying. Or if someone buys something, like if they come to me, I'll just say thank you. Like, even though a lot of it's automated in the back end of my comments, I just press TY and it says, "Oh, thank you very much," or "I appreciate that." And
it's the small things.
It's the small things, and in a world that's saturated with marketing right now, I feel like. And I learned this from Gary Vee, like really trying to humanize your brand. So when people see like those letters YKTR, they can attach something to it very similar to what you've done. We just sort of done it on the roll, but they can understand the story. They've seen us packing from back home and now in our spare bedroom, and the evolution of our first office and our second office, and now potentially starting a meeting company. So inviting them along for the journey has been a massive part for them. And I always try and tell people, you're coming into a saturated market. It's like a Royal Rumble. Like, it's so easy to start a clothing company right now. And we touched on it before, clothes aren't just going to be it. Like, what's your identity? Who are you? And your ethos is the forgotten man. Ours is kind of inspire change through clothing. So we kind of teach people how to do a lot of it. Or how we go, we take them along on buying trips and go to China. And like some people don't even know, like Adobe Illustrator. It's like how you make your clothes and tech packs, and we give out all this information, and it's kind of a long way around, but they end up supporting you.
100% they do.
Once they try it, they go, "Oh shit, it's harder than I thought it was." I might as well buy this bloke's clothes. All right, so you sort of scraped over it. 2007, probably not the best time to. Obviously, there's no foresight there, but 2008 comes along. You probably started the business in probably the worst possible time. Like, how was that?
I always talk about this because I get asked a lot. Well, it was hard, but you got to remember this, right? Like, if I knew what I know now back then, maybe I would have just sort of
stayed in advertising.
Think about this. But in the end, we're a brand that does so well when times are shit. Now, that can be really good. It can be really good because all of our, like, we've got a wholesale business and lots of retail stores, so it's all the one business, but there's different mechanics to it.
A lot of moving parts, isn't there?
A lot of moving parts. On the wholesale front, our priority is to, if you're a store and you want to buy our product, we want to look after you. I don't just want to sell you the stuff, and then if it doesn't work or you're going through hard times, you're screwed. So we want to always work with you. Now, fortunately, wholesalers look at our product and it's like the beacon of light. When times are tough, we're the go-to. They know that they can put more of our product in and it works for them. It sells because it's commercial, likable, safe, it's easy, it's reputable, it's known, it's credible. All those key words that I'm saying that make someone feel really good when times are hard.
It's so fucking true. Like, I was telling you off air, I was wondering what my lifetime value is with Academy over the time, because whenever I need something, it's just like, if I need a shirt or Academy. Yeah. Like, just quick, easy, I know what I want, I know how it fits, I know what colour.
Well, that's right. See, what you've just described there is my nugget of gold that we want to sort of pass on and keep growing, and that's been brought about by those 1%ers, man. That's what it's all about. So when I started it, we were in a deep recession. It was the GFC, like, man, the US dollar was, you know all about this, right?
That's shit now too, isn't it?
Yeah, you sort of pucker up a bit every time you look at the FX. But, I think the lowest it was, I think the first season we financed, it was about 57 cents. Like, disastrous. But it probably worked because I didn't have any legacy. It was the first season, so I didn't owe anyone any money, so I wasn't stressing about it. But we took a big risk. In the early days, we were buying lots of product, and I backed the brand. So I would bring in, say, just to help with an example, say I brought in 200 pieces. I might have only sold 100, but I'm holding an extra 100 because I know it's going to work, and I want to go back to my customers and say, hey, you want some more? And that refill mentality kind of really kicked me on. It was really risky in a time where it was a GFC, but the whole point about our brand working for people in tough times, it was kind of the best time for us to launch.
Yeah, that's true.
Everyone was pulling back. Everyone was not spending as much on marketing. So I just did the opposite and put the foot down. And this little gap opened up and I just went bang. and ran straight through it. And I still subscribe to that mentality now.
So you guys would have been 100% wholesale back then that day, eh? Because
Yeah,
there's no Shopify.
No. We were all wholesale. So we were the first client we sold to was Too Choosy down in Bondi Beach. They don't have a men's business now. I think I might have closed down that men's business when I opened my own store. But if you're listening, sorry.
Subtle.
But they were amazing. They were like the hottest store, and the way we got in there, the way I sold it to them is kind of symptomatic, and it's kind of like it's the whole how the whole academy story is unfolded. You know, their store was really highly priced. You know, they were really targeting a customer who was really cashed up. Now, I don't care if you've got a lot of money, even in hard times when you hear the media and everyone's a bit down, you don't spend as much. So we pitched a product that had this amazing brand feel. It looked fantastic. The collateral was unreal. That it would sit in their store proudly. They wouldn't sort of think that it was lowbrow or anything. But mate, the price was half the price of everything else. So as soon as it went in that store, bang,
Gone.
sold out, right? And I built a fantastic rapport with the buyer down there at the time, who's now been with me as our sales and operations manager for 10 years.
Oh, bullshit.
So that's Travis. Yeah, he's absolute legend. And he was selling the product for me so unbelievably down there. I approached him and said, mate, come and sell it for me. So he joined me, and then, you know, we just kicked off the national tour, if you like, and selling to wholesale. So it was all wholesale, and wholesale's still an important part of our business now.
How much of your business would be wholesale, if you
Well,
go
look,
percentage-wise?
As we've been growing the retail, naturally the percentage is going down. So our business now is predominantly retail.
Yep.
Yeah. So wholesale's only probably 20%.
Bigger than your online presence?
Online is our best retail store.
Yep.
Online, we're sitting at about 10% of our total turnover. We want to, obviously we've got some immediate targets to move it up to 15%. Probably the only thing that holds it back a little bit is, we've still got a really strong wholesale presence with some big online retailers, the Iconic,
Yep.
who are amazing. We've got a great partnership, but the amount of stuff we sell through them,
You can't get the customer data
and
off the back of it, eh?
you know what? No, you can't.
That hurts.
We'll talk off air. So online is obviously critical, but it wasn't a focus early on for me. I mean, online's always been big for a lot of years, but as I said, when I started, it was the digital age probably hadn't even actually really just gone bang. You know what I mean?
We still get guys now going like, oh, how do you buy something online? And like, when does it turn up? And
Yeah. No.
just press okay. Put your card payments in and we'll deliver to you.
Hey, I'll give you the tip. If that's the hardest question you got to answer,
We're going all right.
You're flying.
So I was reading a bit of an article on you and I was like, oh, he's very similar to me. He started packing out of his own house, but I think our houses are in a lot different places.
I noticed you said that before, that you've had, mate, that's been critical for me. And it's like you guys, I've had exposure to every part of the business. So literally, first office was spare bedroom in our apartment. Me and Lara, until Lara got the shits and said, hey.
It was in Bondi though, wasn't it?
Bondi,
On the
it
beach?
was in Bondi. Yeah, it was in Bondi. It was in Bondi.
A little bit different than out in Penrith.
Bit of water? What's the deal? What else?
Oh,
It's hot.
bucket list down there
Yeah,
after
yeah.
a few packing orders.
Okay, true. So, started there, and then I was packing, me and Trav in the early days were packing the orders. We started a little 3PL business with our freight forwarder, and we were out there every day, mate, late at night, packing boxes, shipping them off in our high vis and hard hats. But it was awesome. I look back at that now and I'm like, well, I understand the process. I understand how tough it is. So now having we do all our own fulfillment, I understand what the staff are going through. So when I'm pushing them hard, saying this has got to be done like yesterday, you've been in their shoes, not to that extent, but everything that goes to, you got to learn how to be an accountant, which I hate.
Oh, numbers suck, don't they?
They do. Unless when they're really big, they're really good. In the plus
It's good to
side.
see him coming in. Good to see him coming in.
Yeah, that's right. Never complain about the money coming in. But you got to learn about all parts of the business. I was very lucky that I had all the marketing side covered off, and that was like my focus, right? So as we've grown, I've brought people in that can help in those other departments, right? But I already had a grounding of what it all meant. I understood really quickly what I needed to go to the next level, and when you can understand where your strengths and weaknesses are, because it's easy when you start something to think, oh, I'm fucking good at everything. Right?
Especially when you get a few sales early.
Yeah,
You're like,
you're
fuck,
like,
how good is this? This is all about me.
This shit is easy, you know? And then it all starts to happen.
Did you find it hard letting go parts of your business in the early days?
Absolutely. Maybe I still do.
Yeah.
No,
I know the feeling, yeah.
Yeah, like you look, it depends how you structure it. I try and run a really lean team. Lean and mean, I say, you know, like I've got really good people. We don't have a shitload of them. That's critical for longevity. But yeah, I mean, my role's changed so much in the business over 10 or 11 years. From the first kind of half of the life cycle, I was in everything, like every meeting, every conversation. I knew what every staff member had for lunch, you know, all that sort of stuff, right?
Hey, open that sandwich up. I want to see what's inside
That's
that.
right, that's right. You know, too many carbs, get out. But, you know, like I knew everything. It was a really kind of boutique feel, family. And then I distinctly remember we had our first big sort of spurt of growth, and stuff changed, you know, and I had to really manage the team tightly, because they were sort of saying to me, oh, you know, I don't see you as much. I don't get to talk one-on-one as much. And, you know, just by virtue of, well, there's more people, there's more stuff, and I've got to give my attention, spread it out more. Like, it was a real challenge, that part of it. But then I had to learn how to just sort of let go a bit and not micromanage things. And
That's the worst micromanaging, isn't it?
oh, yeah. Look, don't get me wrong. You still got to, you got to be on top of stuff, but you got to trust people. At the end of the day, you're paying people to do a job for you. They've got to represent you and the brand. But that's kind of my role now, more as a CEO role, to make sure that the direction of the brand is healthy, and I can step into different areas when needed and give more attention to different areas when needed, because I'm really confident with my troops on the ground, you know, and it gives me confidence. I can sleep at night most of the time knowing that everything's in good order. People are there. If something's going wrong, they're dealing with it. Whereas before that, it was just, it's totally, I mean, at the end of the day, the buck stops with me and everything's on my shoulders, and that can be really, really stressful.
I like that, though.
Well, you can thrive on it, and you probably have to. You've got to learn to thrive on it, though, because it can get overpowering. But
Yeah, you can't, like, once it's on you, you can't really point, like, there's no one that we can point to and go, oh, it's his fault.
you got
Like,
to,
do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
you got to embrace that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm very accountable as well. You know, if I make a decision that doesn't work out, and that can happen, put your hand up and say, well, let's move on. We tried. We had a crack. It's not all going to work. But our key thing is just try not to make that mistake twice. You know?
Makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So when, obviously, you guys started a clothing brand at such a different time, when did you open your first store?
So we opened.
And what was that feeling like? Was that would have been awesome, wouldn't it?
Yeah. The first store was Bondi Beach.
Shit location. Straight on there, yeah.
Well, it was amazing. You know, I mean, it's the strip down in Gould Street, and we've been there for 7 years now. So it was kind of 3 years into the journey that I opened that first store. And it made sense because our best wholesale account was in Bondi Beach at Tuchuzi. And, the plan was always to open retail. I didn't have a real tight timeline on it, but that was always the plan, right? I wanted my own stores. I knew I had a brand that could do it. I knew I could fill a store with our product and build the brand vibe. And Bondi Beach, it was just the perfect start, you know? But it was still kind of before that strip was...
It's very on brand, isn't it? Bondi, yes.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a really hot strip now. It's tightly held.
I see a lot of stores coming in and out of there. Like, I've seen Huffer in there for like a couple months and they're out, and then Tiger Lily come in and they're out. And
look, there's a bit of turnover. There's always a reason for it, though. You know, like I could go through a whole list of those and tell you why they didn't work. But the key is they get filled really quick. It's not like other strips where there can be vacancies for extended periods. So that's kind of my little baby still, you know, because it was the first one. But then, from there, once we got a feel for it, we opened Newtown, Paddington.
that's a good
Bondi
location,
Junction.
Newtown one, eh?
It's really cool. It's
What made you go to Newtown next? Because it's quite opposite types of people, isn't it?
again, mate, I understood customer bases, right, and market analytics and everything, and Newtown is a precinct, if you like, that's just changed over time. I mean, 15 years ago, it was very different to what it is now. People assume that it's... And look, there's still an element of, I call it like a good grunge,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they're cool. They're cool around there.
But at the end of the day, There's fantastic food.
Mary's.
Fantastic, 100%, yeah. You know, pubs, restaurants. Mate, it's so close to the city now. There is a huge amount of young professionals living all around there. It's proper, you know, and I identified that. And we took a little store, but it's on the corner, if you're familiar with it, King Street.
It's a cool place.
It's great exposure. You know, it's really good exposure. But it's a really small format store, and you know, you got to be able to work as a brand in retail in different formats. Sometimes it's really hard to work in small formats because you can only put so much stock in there. You really can only generate certain revenue. But if the rent deal's right, it's brilliant. So, yeah, Newtown, we really wanted to seed it. I'm a big fan of the streets. You know, I'm still a big fan of the high streets, and you know, you read so much stuff about the strips are dead, you know, and yeah, some of them have gone through. But our Paddington store, I went into Paddington when it was dead because I knew it would come back. And it's a great business for us, you know, and Paddington's only going to get better. At the end of the day, it's still Oxford Street. It's still Paddington. You know, when Justin Hem starts to bring restaurants there, you know something's going on. So...
He's got that little chicken store up there, doesn't he?
Oh, mate, it's, you know, it's... So I think choosing locations is almost like starting another business idea, right? You got to know your market, know there's... And hey, I haven't got them all right. I mean...
Yeah.
We've got 41 stores now, and there's
41.
Yeah,
shit.
There's a few.
Congrats,
in there.
bro. That's awesome.
Oh, thanks. But you know, there's a few in there that you'd like not to have.
Yeah. So the lease is too long on those.
Oh, mate. Well, you just don't get them right all the time. You take a punt, and sometimes it just doesn't work. If it's a centre, it just might not generate the traffic, or the customer just might be a bit too old, or whatever it is. You don't get them all right.
How do those ones in like DFO and all that go? Are they good
Awesome.
spots?
Yeah,
I feel like that'll be the good spots to go in.
We've got a really strong, but DFO businesses are hard to manage because naturally...
Shoplifting.
It can be a problem. It can be a problem, but it's a really good business to clear out. But we don't fill it with all clearance. We usually have kind of like 40% of the stores.
That makes sense.
New.
Yeah.
It's a new product. So I want you to come in there and buy a couple of things on a really strong discount, but then
on the upsell, get
grab a
something
linen,
cheap.
correct? You know, but they're a great business to help manage your stock. You know, once you get sort of, you know, you drop things into your stores for 6 weeks, and then you sort of move it out to your outlets just on a nice little discount, and you bring something new in. So you got to get that workflow. But we're still getting that right now, mate. It takes a lot of time to get that right.
Yeah, obviously, we're talking about workflows off air, and YKTR sort of likes to run on an 8 to 12 week cycle for anyone listening. But shit happens, and there's a thing around called the coronavirus at the moment, and it's affected both our businesses. What's it meant to you guys having that sort of something like that happen, and it's unexpected?
Look, I mean, I guess you kind of become a bit resilient when some things happen over a long period of time. You sort of get used to crisis management sometimes, you know, and that only comes with experience. So, you know, we've gone through a few tough times, and, you know, things happen. That's life, that's business, right? It's how you respond to it, and it's how you bounce back. Coronavirus it's definitely having an impact, mainly through delays. The issue, I think, for us is, you know, we're coming into a winter season, and winter in Australia is such a small season, really, in terms of the fashion cycle. I know it's like freezing and sometimes until August, right? But really, the fashion cycle, it's over by June because everything's on sale. And so if you're talking about stock being delayed 1 month, it has a big impact. But
Huge.
the situation's really fluid. We're still getting more information. We'll be okay. We've got a lot of stock that's already here and on ships and planes and everything. But, you know, look, there might be a portion of stock that we just sort of go, well, you know, we're cancelling. We're not having it because it's going to be too delayed. But it's a partnership. It's about your partnerships and working with your suppliers. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a real thing. You know, like...
Oh, yeah, like, we sound like we're talking about it now, and obviously you want everyone's health to be, like, priority, it sounds, but it does take a massive toll on your business, and you sound a lot more stress-free than I am, because, like, we're based on, like, flows and cycles, and we roll on 8 weeks. If we don't got clothes to sell, we don't got money. We talked about money first thing, like, how does your business make money? It gets a little bit scary, doesn't it?
No, it does, and I think, you know, look, we've got a lot of stock in our business, you know, just so even if I had a couple of months wiped out, I'll still got stock I can throw in my business, right? So it's different situation to you. So I can understand your stress, you know, but at the end of the day, stress is normal. You can't worry about it too much. You just got to keep pushing ahead. And, you know, customers will understand. I mean, it's a real thing. It's not like you sort of just going out to your customers and saying, oh, the dog ate the homework. We can't, you know, like, it's been in the news, you know what I mean? And I mean,
we're not making up stuff, are we?
I heard some stuff this morning, you know, Apple's just come out and said their profitability and their numbers are now being really hit. So, I mean, once those big players start to say stuff, you're going to see financial markets and everyone start to worry about it a bit more. But look, we're still figuring it out. It's still really fluid, so let's not. It's not the end of the world just yet.
Nah, no way. It's crazy. So you talked about going through a few tough times. What's the toughest time you've ever had as an entrepreneur, as a business owner with Academy?
Look, there's been a few. I mean, and it can vary. I mean, you know, people are a big challenge. I mean, I pride myself on the most important thing is my team. But, you know, you got to make some hard decisions sometimes. You know,
what was it like firing your first person?
Yeah, well, it was tough. I'd never done it, and it's tough. I'm a really emotional guy. I get attached to my people and my business, and that's the way I like to do business. I get to know people, and, you know, it's a fine line between becoming a friend but then having the respect. And, you know, I think I've done that really, really well. I think my team respects me a lot.
How many in your office across here?
So we've got 20 in our head office.
Oh, shit, that's quite a lot, eh? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's the sort of 100 that aren't in the head office, all of our key managers and all of the stores, and you know, it's a challenge. It's a challenge, but yeah. So having to make some tough decisions across the years of you know, sometimes people just hit a wall, and it's not a bad thing. Sometimes people just need to go somewhere else to do something else, and sometimes they can't see it, you know. So I feel like the times I've had to make those decisions, it's been good for everyone. But it's challenging. That's been a real challenge, you know, when you have to start to, you're not just playing with a business, you're playing with people's lives.
Yeah, true.
You know, and you know, their livelihoods and their emotions. And look, you can't get too caught up in it, but it's that's just how I've run my business. You know, it's a really good environment. We've got a really good culture. So there's been challenges like that. I mean, of course, there's been, you know, financial stress and challenges when you're growing your business, you're trying to get finance, and you're kind of like pitching every 10 minutes to that really takes its toll. But the way you get through it, even with, and there's been knockback after knockback after knockback after knockback, and that's just life. That's what happens. You know, even now, like, you want to do stuff, but like, you know, when there's coronavirus and when you hear about, you know, retail's not exactly an industry that banks and investors kind of put up on their pin board every day and say, go and invest.
Yeah.
So we're kind of on the back foot, all of us, from that, you know, point of view. So we just got to work a bit harder, pitch a bit harder, you know, be a bit better. That's kind of simple, right? So that's been a real big challenge, you know, when you sort of really believe in an opportunity and you're really, really close, but you just can't get it across the line, whether it's because of you can't get the finance for it. That crushes me. I hate that, because when I know there's an opportunity, I usually just get it. You go for it, you do it. But the facts are that's just not how life works, and it's not how business works. So there have been really big challenges, and it's still an ongoing challenge, right, because we still want to grow a lot. You know...
Can I ask you a question? We're at a point now where we're scaling. How does business scale? Like, I feel like scaling scarier than starting, because you've actually got something to lose now. You know what I mean? You don't want to fuck it up and overfinance.
It can be, but it's so exciting.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I think, you know, before scaling, we mentioned it before, right? You've got to be confident in that you've got that DNA, you've got something. Does it have legs? And yours definitely does. What does scaling look like, though? You just break it down, you know, and it becomes less scary. When you just break everything down simply, it's not as kind of arduous, and doesn't freak you out as much, right? So if scaling for you is like you just want more stock, well, then you just focus on that. How do I get more stock? How do I get more money to get more stock? You know, and that just, rather than get caught up in the, oh my God, if we do this and it all goes pear-shaped, I'm fucked. Like, you know, like that. You will never go anywhere if you think like that.
Let's swap seats for a while. Say you're in the position we are, we're strictly online. Where would you push us towards next?
I look at your brand, and I think there's some great wholesale opportunities for you, right? There's some...
The thing that scares me about wholesale is the like payment terms, and like, you know, you kind of fund other people's businesses, and you just with them paying you back.
But it can fund your business, right? Like,
yeah,
for example, okay, so like, and I think you want to control it, right? Like, but let's just say if it was someone like Culture Kings, for example, right? And if they believed in your brand, they're a business that can spend a lot of money on your brand without even blinking an eye, right? If you can fit into that, and I'm just using that as an example, right? Because the wholesaler that you choose has got to be applicable, they've got to be strong, and that's a strong business. Like, they're a big, strong business. But what it does for you...
They try and buy you out, don't they? I've heard a few stories, yeah.
Not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, 100,
you need options. but what it does is it gives you a guaranteed kind of monthly income that you can plan around. So, for example, coming into this winter, right, if you knew now that you're going to have 100 grand coming in February, March, April and May, right, you can start to plan around that. And you can buy more stock to then do things online and build your online business. So I've always taken the mentality that there's got to be building blocks, right? You've got to build it. You've got to keep building it. Every single day you've got to take, it doesn't matter if it's a centimetre forward, but you've got to keep going forward. So for me, scaling up for you is definitely online growth, but getting the brand out there to some really applicable bricks and mortar retailers, I think could be really positive because of the cash flow that it can give you.
Would you go big time straight away, or would you kind of keep it like niche-y and boutique-y, or just...
Oh, look, once upon a time I would have said, yeah, keep it underground,
Yeah.
keep it, fuck that, go large.
Where's the money, man?
Well, look, it depends on your motivation, but at the end of the day, without you probably even realising it, you've got a really commercial DNA. That's really cool. Why not reach more people? I think ultimately the true vertical thing is a great thing, but to help build your online business, you can't just open an online store. People always think you open an online store and there's just going to be millions of people. It does not work that way.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't pay rent, but you've got to pay to acquire customers through all your digital marketing and advertising. So to give you an example, like we do a lot of outdoor media advertising. I'm a huge fan of it,
Yeah,
right?
I see you on back of buses and shit,
stuff.
eh?
It's really good because what it does is
It's tough to track metrics though, isn't it?
well, it depends what you're after. For me, it's about maintaining credibility. It's about being top of mind. And whether you like it or not, all the data shows that recall means credibility, right? The more you see something and then you see it in a store, you instantly walk to it because you feel like it's got a bit more credibility than the thing next to it that they've
Touch
never
point,
heard
isn't
of.
it? Yeah.
So how do I measure that? Well, I say, our online's grown 50% every year and I haven't spent that much on digital marketing, right? So people and all our Google Analytics tell us that people are organically coming to our website.
Yep.
That's because they're seeing it out there. Every store I open is a marketing hub, right? So, as you said, if I'm on your side of the table, I'm looking at, how do I get more eyeballs on my brand? And if that means that I've got to sell to some really strategic wholesale accounts, like Culture Kings or whatever, that's what I would do. Because by virtue of that, that's ultimately going to grow your online business. As I said, it depends on what your motives are, but there's no reason why you can't aspire to have your own store.
I do. Obviously, you go to America quite a lot. I love Kith. Like, that's probably like my favorite brand. I love the setup of it. I love how it kind of houses other brands that as well. Like, that would be like the dream setup for me.
Yeah, I can see that. And I mean, the US could be a great market, right? But I always resisted. We had so much interest on the US. But I mean, get your own backyard in order.
Yeah.
And
then scale. Oh, no, that's what I mean. Sorry. I sort of rephrase that. Sort of have a Kith style store.
Yeah, right. You're right. Yeah, 100%. Well, I mean, in a couple of minutes, we've just got a business plan done.
Yeah, true.
Like, it's,
But Loki, find an email for Culture Kings.
But scaling is exciting. I mean, seriously, why are you doing it? If you just want to stay one size, then you're going to let other people just run past you. But you've got a strong enough DNA, I reckon, that you can also take your time a little bit. But mate, that's what I'd be doing.
Yeah, thanks, bro. I appreciate that. We're not in a rush here.
Everyone's
anyway.
just heard that, so the secret's out.
I want everyone to hear it. Who was Mickey Drexler, and why do you look up to him?
Mickey Drexler. So he was running J. Crew.
What is J. Crew?
J. Crew, big American brand, right? So it's imagine, just to put it in context for like brands here, like a cooler sort of country road,
Okay.
if you like, right? But what I liked about Mickey Drexler was the man himself, his management style. He was the CEO. He revolutionised it. But, he's, been through ups and downs and like everyone. But it's funny, you mentioned before about how you engage with customers. There's no thing too small. And he put out a DVD a while ago, a long time ago actually.
DVD, shit.
I know, DVD. Beta, maybe it was a VHS. I know. But it was kind of just like a day in the life of him, right? And it just showed him going around to the stores and talking to the managers and talking about product. And this is a guy that's worth like squillions, has massive mansions in the Hamptons and in Germany and France and you name it. But he's still, if a customer writes in, right, he gets notifications of we're talking like hundreds of thousands of customer inquiries, right? I'm sure he's got a lot of filters and all that, but he personally writes back to someone. Now, that says a lot. I mean, that's a real kind of mentality and a management style. Now, I'm not saying everyone should do that, but I just loved the mentality and seeing the passion of how he runs the business and engages with staff, and nothing's too small. You know, he would be in a store and he'd be getting passionate about product and where it should be and asking questions. And, you know, it was just a present CEO, and that's how I try and sort of model what I do, because that's infectious, right? Passion's infectious, you know. So there was just, that's Mickey Drexler. That's just, look him up and I'll shoot you the, do you have a DVD player? I don't know. I'll see if it's online somewhere.
I don't think laptops or anything have DVD players anymore, eh?
No, they don't.
Showing your age here, eh? DVD players.
How do I transfer that shit? I don't know. Anyway.
I remember reading a book on Made in USA about Sam Walton, and he sounded like very similar. He used to go in and measure like the floor and see why competition had like better advantages. And
well, there you go. There's a lot in common. If you look at like your favourite sort of executives or sports people or whatever that have been successful, there's always a common thread somewhere. And I think it's just passion, being meticulous, loving what you do, and not being a wanker. Yeah. You know, like seriously. I mean, look, as I said, there's exceptions to the rule. There's some people that have been successful operating businesses the other way.
Like Steve Jobs and that, aren't he? Wasn't he a bit of a dick early on? Or
I don't know. I don't know Steve that well, but but
SJ.
But yeah, I like his shit.
Yeah, fucking know.
I like his stuff. But you know what I mean? So I think that's always I look up to people that have the time for others, that care. But you know what? Like, you still can't suffer fools. You know, at the end of the day, you got to make tough decisions, and you can only do that if you got the respect. But you can only get respect if you're treating people with some, you know, care and a bit of love every now and then, right? So yeah, Mickey Drexler was that's where, you know, I talk about him quite a lot. And I haven't for a few years, but I showed my team the DVD.
Oh, bullshit. Yeah, so you got DVD player in the office over there.
Yeah. It's funny, they were all like, oh my God, that's no wonder you're like the way you are. That's you. So I'd like his house.
Yeah. Be handy, that.
Yeah. But it's really important. The point is, it's really important to have mentors like that, you know. And to be honest, I don't have too many, but
I feel like you only need one.
Maybe only one.
Because mine's Gary V. Like, everything he does, I just copy and paste. And I say the same shit he says, and people go, oh, you're so smart. I'm like, fuck, I'm just an echo. I'm saying the same shit that he's saying.
Nothing wrong with that,
Oh,
mate.
that's it.
If you believe in it.
Corey said that to me once. He goes, you're just saying the same shit. I was like, but you're just saying the same shit that your coaches have taught you about football. Like,
I know. I say it every year, Dragons are going to win the comp. Dragons going to win the comp.
Yeah.
They're not listening.
Like, it could be a chance this year, man. Obviously, with all the Jack DeBellin stuff, if he gets off, man, that's a forward pack and a half.
Oh, it's been a tough... Yeah, I know. They're great. And I like the young talent coming through. I just think they've got to give them a go. There's a lot of guys off contract this year. So, I mean, that always comes in, you know...
Oh, you always play your best foot in your last...
Some players might grow a leg this year.
You'd be surprised,
Yeah,
man.
I know. There'll be, you know...
The first year after signing the big contracts, or you just shit us, and then once you see the money start, the light at the end of the tunnel, you're like, fuck, better start having a crack here.
Isn't it funny? I mean, it's kind of similar in business, you know? Like, if there's a tough time, the next period after that, everyone's really hell-bent on just proving that, you know, you're the shit and you can withstand it. You know, it's funny how the mind works like that, but you got to embrace it.
3 more questions for you. How much has the marketing and advertising landscape changed from 2007 to 2020?
Oh, a lot. Mainly because of what we spoke about earlier, just the amount of new ways to engage with the customer. You know, like every time I'm driving to work or whatever and a bus pulls up next to me, every single person is on their phone, right? And they're gesturing like they're flicking through feeds, right? When I started, that wasn't even a thing. Like, it was not even a thing. I'm not even sure, when did Facebook, I'm not even sure that was around.
2008, Facebook started.
Well,
No, maybe a little bit earlier, but I think it started to become like mainstream around then. Yeah.
I think it might have been MySpace or something.
Yeah,
when I was
yeah.
Do you even know what that is?
Yeah, I know. But I'm 31, so
Oh, stop it.
yeah. Bebo, I was on Bebo as well, so yeah.
I don't even know what it is. It sounds good though. So it's changed a lot. So that's probably the biggest thing, understanding that, and by virtue of having all these new things, what it's done for us is it opens you up to a new customer base. You know, like it's funny. I mean, my parents are now starting to get into Instagram, right? It takes time, but I mean, that is a major thing, that you can just have this platform to talk to all these people in a second. Like, you can do a post right now and tell someone something. You know, the way I compare it is like when I started in terms of the marketing, it was like what we were doing before mobile phones were around. You know, so yeah, it was a big difference. But of course, when you don't know any better, so you're just doing it. But I love it. I think it's fantastic. So that's the biggest change. That there's just never been more ways to engage with a customer. But in saying that, it's funny. I'm still a big fan in the traditional media. I think we're always going to have buses. There's always going to be billboards. There's always going to be.
Are they overpriced though, or?
No.
Shit, I'm listening to too much Gary V here, eh? I'm straight Facebook ads, bang, bang, bang.
No, but listen, look, every business is different, and you know, every touch point for every business is different. But no, they're not overpriced. I mean, they're not cheap, but it's just supply and demand. When not a lot of people are doing it, there's a good price to be had. So that's the other reason I like it, right? You can always pretty much get a good deal, and
It's the old Paddington, like you get in Paddington, eh?
it's you know, the buses and billboards are a big thing for us. So it's not clickable, you know.
Yeah, you can't track the conversion value on the back end of Facebook.
But I mean, there's got to be a percentage and an element of your business growth you just directly attribute to that.
Branding, yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Did you use your marketing and advertising skills to get Lara Pitt?
Mate, now that was one pitch that I had to make over.
Oh, she brushing you, was she?
Over again. I can't talk too much about this. She'll kill me. But no, that was a hard sell.
Was it?
But hey,
Hey, you got
10
your
years
girl.
married, mate.
Right, yes, that's
Two
a
kids,
credit.
third on the way.
That's a credit to you, man. And not too many people ask that.
Winning.
Yeah. What's next for Academy Brand? Last question. Oh, second to last question.
What's next? Well, I think more scale. You know, I think we've done really well to get where we are. I mean, there's challenges that we want to sort of smooth out along the way, but when the time's right, we've got another big scale phase for us. The next 3 to 5 years, more stores, more online growth. You know, we've got the kids brand Academy Rookie, which you know I love because my boys can kind of wear it. So you know.
Shit margins and kids' clothes, isn't there?
Yeah, they are. You do it for the love, really.
Yeah. We're starting to make some now, and it's like, oh, where's the margin in this?
Oh, yeah, there's no margin there. But, I mean, you know, the starting point with that is to be truly vertical. Then you got to hope, right? But, look, it's a good DNA for us. It's a thing, and it's got legs, so I want to build that. But, you know, first and foremost, more stores. You know, we want to keep the footprint growing. And that's a 3 to 5 year plan.
There's always going to be another wedding coming up, always a new races. They always need a top up.
100%. You know, but it's not just for weddings, Isaac. It's not just, you know.
But I come to work like this, so I don't need shirts often.
That's all right. But you know, I think in terms of the product, there's some exciting things that we've got on the boil. You know, product developments, little diffusion lines, and things like that. All that stuff just happens when it needs to happen, you know. It's really good when it's not forced. We probably could have done some of this stuff ages ago, but then I look back and go, no, it would have been forced. When you get enough people ringing and enough people knocking on the door, that's when you do something, you know.
Makes sense.
So that's probably the other bit of advice in terms of scaling. Like, if you get a lot of people saying, where else can I get this stuff? Like, you know, if that's a consistent message, then put it in more places.
Makes sense. I remember everyone kept hitting me up for bucket hats, and I don't wear bucket hats. And I was like, oh, I'm not making them because I don't wear them. And ended up making we made like 300-400 or something, and they sold it in the first hour. So I'm like, oh shit, probably should be listening to my customer.
What a great example.
Yeah.
Bucket hats. You know what though? That's the thing. When I first started Academy, I was like, everything I was designing was like I was loving. I was like, yeah, I'd wear that. Wrong. That was the worst bit of advice I gave myself. No, seriously, you've got to understand that people are going to like shit that you don't. And that's really, really important. And that example of the bucket hat is bang on. That will always be the case. So as soon as you can listen to your customer and not just, man, I'm not going to wear that.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it?
You know, so I struggled with that. For many years, I was like, looking at things going, I'm not putting that to market because I wouldn't wear it. Well, that's a mistake.
All right, last question. I'm always interested in how people spend their days from sort of morning to nighttime. Obviously, being a dad of two, husband, and looking after potentially over 130 staff. How do you spend your day?
Busy.
Well, let's go wake up. Like, tell me.
So look, early wake up. You know, Lara.
What's early?
Oh, well, with kids, it can be anywhere from 5:30 to sort of 6:30. So you know, not outrageous. And you know what? It's more like, let's just say 6 a.m. Lara's sort of a lot more active in the morning than me with the kids. I'm very lucky. She's amazing. But, you know, it's the kids' routine. So we wake up, it's getting them dressed, breakfast, you know, you go through the motions. And, you know, I like to get to work. I like to have brekkie with one of my kids. I'm trying to make sure I do that once a week, you know, alternate with the kids, just have a bit of one-on-one time before work. And then, you know, the day starts. I get to work with, you know, Monday and Tuesday are very meeting focused, lots of reviews, lots of stock meetings, lots of analysis, which is just so important to do. I like to, you know, try and have a game of golf once a week. I haven't done it for about a month and it's starting to really shit me because, you know, it's
Had him all right?
Well, not yeah,
Depends what day you're asking.
not too bad. Yeah. For a couple of holes, they go well. You know, so I like to try and find some time for myself, whether it's a Tuesday afternoon or a Wednesday afternoon. You know, I'm sort of describing a week here. You asked me for a day, but you're getting a week. And yeah, I mean, we don't, you know, I try not to stay back too late. Like we don't really necessarily have to burn the midnight oil, which is good. I'm a really big believer in a work-life balance. Lara will be pissing herself laughing at me saying this because
You're always there, are you?
I'm not sure that's what I'm, you know, practicing what I preach, but, you know, for my staff, you know, so, mate, there's nothing too revolutionary about my day. I got to be honest with you, you know.
Is it just consistent?
Yeah, I try and
Built over the back of 13 years.
I like consistency. I really do, but it's not revolutionary. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh man, I do yoga and that gets me going.
100 chin-ups before I get
and
to
then
yoga.
I go.
There's good
mate,
yoga joint across the road from yours.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, mate, I'm not that flexible, so. But yeah, there's nothing overly exciting, mate. It's really what happens within the day. But it's a wake up, have breakfast, go to work, do work, come home, right?
Be a dad.
Be a dad, which I love.
Cool, man. All right, just want to. Oh, actually, last question. What's your favourite meal from the cannery?
Ooh.
This is locals chat here.
Man, I'm a big fan of Welcome Dose.
Yeah, good coffee, Really good coffee.
Great coffee.
Have you had their bacon and egg roll from there?
Yes, of course.
Fuck.
That bacon is unbelievable.
Yeah, what's in there? Is it dripped in honey or some
I
shit?
don't know. It's like, it's special glazed, marinated deliciousness.
Yeah.
That's really good. It's all pretty good.
Have you had the eggplant roll from the Vietnamese joint?
I haven't had the eggplant roll, no.
Try that. It sounds like kind of boring, but it's really, really good.
Okay.
Steak sandwich from Morley. That's one of our go-tos.
The cheeseburger's good from the burger joint.
What burger joint?
Down on the corner.
One we walked past yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
If you haven't done that, you've got to do that.
Yeah, I'm on a carnivore diet at the moment, so no bread for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, weird. Good. Feel mad.
Yeah, you see, I'm not about that.
You're on good nick anyway, so you're all right. Yeah. I'm fucking getting too fat over here.
No.
All right, bro, I just want to thank you for jumping on, giving me your time.
My pleasure.
Giving you advice. We'll probably get you back on. I think we'll kind of want to do like a clothing one where there's a bunch of us and people can ask us questions. So
I'd love to be a part of it.
I feel like you're in that position now where you want to teach, don't you?
I love it. If I can help, you know, someone that's doing something that, you know, and help learn from what I've been doing, yeah, I love that. Absolutely love it. So I'd love to come back.
Yeah, I wish you nothing but success and Academy brand. Look to see you on the back of buses and everywhere in the world.
Just to finish, I got a little joke for you.
What do you got? Is it funny or what?
Well, I don't know. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Owen.
It's Owen who?
Owen the Saint.